And do you wish for this interview to be anonymous and for HEAL to protect your identity?
Yes.
Welcome to the HEAL Report. HEAL wishes to welcome an Aspen Ranch survivor who's going to be sharing her story with us. So welcome to you, and I just said what program you were in, but you were in Aspen Ranch, correct?
Yeah.
And was that the only program you were in?
No, it was one of the couple, but...
Okay, if you refer to any other programs, like with specific incidents, please be specific to which program. If you discuss something that happened at a different program during the interview, so people know which ones you're talking about, given specific incidents. So tell me about that experience. I'll have some questions for you too, to help it keep going, but whatever you want to talk about is fine.
Okay. Cool. Well, I went in early 2000s, and I was only there for a few months, which is short for their standards because they deemed me unmanageable at the end. And in all, it was just horrific. It was awful. You were dehumanized from day one, and you were punished for having emotions, which teenagers in that situation tend to have.
Right.
And yeah.
Did they give you a new name, or did they address you by a number or some other name while you were enrolled there?
No, you still had that at least.
Okay. Even changing your name, to make it long, my name's Angela, so I was assigned a number. It was 308, so that's that. But some people who've had short names, they go by Tony or something, the program made them go by Anthony, anything like that, where it's more formal or any kind of variation than what you would normally call yourself?
No, they respected at least that.
Okay. And was there a level system of privileges and consequences? And that's in quotes because, of course... Well, tell us about that.
Okay. When you first get there, you're in Roundup, and it's their beginning stage where you're in segregation from the rest of the program, and you're in there with the rest of the Roundup. I think there was 6 kids with me. I think it was 2 weeks. It's been a long time, so don't quote me. And then after that, you join your team, and you're a Maverick. Mustang, and then you're a Maverick, and then Greenhorn, and then I forget. I know the final level was Wrangler.
Okay.
I never made it past Mustang, so.
Right. So what were some of the privileges and consequences for each level, if you remember? At Roundup, what was your life like on Roundup level?
Roundup, you couldn't have shampoo or conditioner or anything. You got basic soap, from soap dispensers in the showers. So if you were a girl and had long hair, that was kind of awful.
Yeah.
And you couldn't keep your shoes at night on Roundup. It's been so long. I know that I don't remember the specifics exactly. I remember Wrangler, you got to wear your clothes. You didn't have to wear their clothes, which is kind of exciting. But, if you actually made it to Wrangler, you were 18 probably and on your way out anyway.
Right.
I think Greenhorn, you could go across the ranch without supervision. But other than that, I don't remember, and especially since I never made it that far.
Right.
I don't remember.
Did they
I didn't have any privileges.
Right. Did they use any restraint or use isolation or solitary confinement?
Yes. If you didn't do what they wanted you to, they would restrain you with I forget what it's called, but they would bend your hand and make it touch your arm, basically pain, till you either walked with them or, they drag you to where they want you. If you ran or you self-harmed or you didn't follow their rules, you went to R&R, which was not rest and relaxation. It was redirection and recovery. And you basically sat in a room. You had points, and you could buy a hot meal. You could usually buy one a day. You could either use that to buy a hot meal or you could buy a book. Other than that, if you didn't use your points or if you did use your points for hot meal, you're basically staring at the staff. And, yeah, that was pretty much their seclusion, was R&R. So.
Were you denied contact with your family or visits with your family during your enrollment?
Yes. I wrote my parents. It was kind of a custody thing between my grandparents and my parents, and my grandparents were the ones who put me in Aspen Ranch. And I wrote my parents letters. They did not receive any of them.
Wow.
I did write my older brother, and he did receive one letter. While I was there, I was given a court thing saying that, you know, my grandparents are going to court to get my custody. And I wrote the court saying that I want to be, you know, emancipated. And they did not deliver that letter.
Wow.
Yeah, they controlled everything. Like, your letters couldn't be sealed because they had to read them.
Right, I think that's a violation of federal law, actually, like federal postal law. You're not supposed to be reading your mail like that. Did they read your incoming mail to you? I mean, do you know of any letters that family said they sent you that you didn't receive?
All the letters that I did receive were opened. So, I mean, as far as anything that was sent to me, I have no idea. That if I didn't receive it, I have no idea. Right.
Were you forced to provide labor, and did they compensate you for your labor?
Yeah, we were made to work. I mean, besides just normal house chores, but, like, we had a work week where we went around the ranch and did, like, farm labor. And roundup basically is you spend the whole time doing either you're downstairs staring at a wall or you're going out and, like, when I was in roundup, we went to the potato field and we picked up rocks. And no, we were not compensated. Was school considered a privilege? Was education or academics considered a privilege you had to earn? Were there levels in the program where you weren't attending normal school or classwork or academic studies? I was in trouble a lot, so to speak. I spent a lot of time in R&R. When I was in R&R, I did not do schoolwork. Like, it wasn't given to me. The option wasn't provided. Like, pretty much a piece of paper was considered a privilege.
Okay. And you said you were only there for a few months. Do you know if the credits you earned or if you earned any credits that were transferable to...
I'd be shocked if I did earn any credits.
So you don't think there was any kind of thing like that?
No, when I was in school, I was, like, full-on rebel, so...
I hear you. What, do you know more about the privilege and consequences of the level system, or you're there so briefly it's hard to recall?
Yeah, it's been a long time, and I didn't really reach level, so, I mean, what I do remember, like, you get certain perks, like, stupid little things that are, like, there for everyday life that, you know, they take away from you in programs.
Yeah.
Specifics I don't remember, but, you know, little stupid things that, you know, when you're in a program for so long, it's just like, oh my God, someone just handed you, like, a gold toilet seat. I mean, it's...
Right. Well, this idea that, you know, that you had to pay to have a warm meal, a hot meal, what was the food like? Was it, you have to earn a nutritious diet? You have to earn, you know, you don't just automatically get your basic needs met. This is the situation?
When you were in R&R, yeah. I mean, if you weren't in R&R, then you got hot meals, except in Roundup, I do remember a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and that's pretty much what R&R was. If you didn't buy your hot meal, then you got peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Which is a far cry from a balanced meal.
Yeah.
Basically just sugar and carbs.
Right.
Well, there's protein in peanut butter. I mean, I will give them that. But, you know, a lot of peanut butter, like, unless it's, like, pure peanut butter where you're going into, like, the natural foods and just grinding up peanuts and that's your peanut butter, has so much garbage in it. It's really not good for you at all. I mean...
It's not something to live off of for, like, a week.
Definitely. Do you know if they had any people with eating disorders on the Roundup section, or, like, no matter what they were there for, they're ending up, you know, with this diet for, like, the first few weeks, and then if they're punished, this is their diet?
Yeah. It didn't matter what you were there for. That was the way it was.
So it's a one-size-fit-all, just like most of them seem to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you meet with a therapist? Did they have licensed therapists that you met with regularly, or was it mostly just unqualified staff?
I did have a therapist. I was looking over paperwork not too long ago, and he didn't have like the LMFT. He had MA, whatever that means.
I think that just means Master's of Arts degree. I don't think that means that you have a license. An MA is like a college degree, but not a, and depending on which college, a lot of the people that we've seen in the industry are getting their degrees out of a Cracker Jack box, in a way. I don't know what else to say about it. I think a lot of these online, Trump University or whatever else that might be getting, if you pay me $3,000, I'll print a piece of paper that says you have a master's degree in psychology. Okay, cool, I can do that.
Right, pretty much.
Yeah, so it's frustrating because, it's like, well, I actually went to a real college, so I know that it's a lot of hard work and you have to have a multidisciplinary studies and a lot of training and ethics and everything else, and it's not something where you just go take a few online courses or write one paper. I heard that one of the more well-known universities, their psychology, to get a PhD in psychology, you had to attend one 4-hour lecture and write a paper on that, and that was the requirement. In graduate school, in the graduate school at my university, you spend a year researching a specific topic and write a thesis on it. And that's what your graduate thesis is. And it's a long, very intensive academic process. It's not something where you go to a 4-hour event and write a piece of paper out on it, or even if it's a 20-page paper on what was discussed. That's one person's seminar. That's nowhere near what academic standards are, which is to compare different theories of psychology and of treatment and come up with something that shows that you've examined the area and you have a really true understanding of it. It's just surprising to me how many scams there are. Anyway, so your impression was that, your therapist, he had an MA, but you don't know if he was licensed or not. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, at the time, I don't think, if he was, then it would have been on the paperwork.
Okay.
So, and he didn't care for me, and I didn't care for him. So it was pretty mutual.
Right, and of course, when you're treating someone, I'm not saying you have mental health problems, but arguably this is what people are going to claim. You went to a treatment center, you had a mental health issue. Well, if you have a mental health issue, one of the first things you need to do to have a successful treatment is to build a trust relationship with your therapist. If your therapist and you don't have that, then there's no point, and it's a big waste of time and money, which I'm sure many people feel that way.
Yeah, that one, I'm not saying that I was there, I was the perfect child. I was not the perfect child. I had problems. But,
well, there's no such thing as the perfect child. I'd be very concerned. Jeffrey Dahmer was just such a sweet kid. He really loved animals. He helped his dad out at his pharmacy and on the farm, and overall everyone says he was a quiet, well-mannered, nice kid. That's Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right.
He ate people, and he had some weird, attachment issues, which is why he would kill, it started out with working on the farm, and his father would slaughter the animals, and then they were like his pets, so he would keep their body parts to keep close to those animals that he had attached himself to, and that's what grew into this bizarre thing that happened as an adult for him. So I just think, maybe we should look at, it's not so bad to be a little rebellious, maybe people who are too conforming turn out to be serial killers. I don't know.
Right. They're hiding something and they're really good at it.
Right, exactly. And nobody's perfect. I'm sure your parents were not perfect either.
Oh, no.
Or your grandparents, for that matter, because they're the ones who put you there, right?
Yeah, it was like a financial situation. Like my parents couldn't afford it, so they went to my grandparents. My grandparents were like, "Okay, we'll do it, but we want to take financial responsibility, or we want to take responsibility for." I'm not really sure because I wasn't like in the know.
Yeah.
That goes. I just knew that there was like a custody thing going back and forth.
Right. Well, I'm glad you were freed early because it's ridiculous to be in any of these facilities.
Right. I mean, I was transferred to another facility after that, but it wasn't like ideal situation. But the staff there I was pretty messed up by the time I got there. Thanks to Aspen Ranch, but. The staff there, the program itself wasn't that great, but the staff didn't hold me to it, and it was the staff that made the difference.
Well, good. Did they help you report anything that was awry at Aspen Ranch?
No, by the time I got there, I just figured that it was useless.
Okay, that makes sense. Is there anything else you would like to add about your experience?
I can't really think of anything too much. I mean. Aspen Ranch messed me up. I was wrecked by the time, I left. I mean, I got there being like an angry, 16-year-old, and I left being, instead of angry, just emotionally unstable.
Right.
And, it was horrific. It was awful. And when I learned that they closed, that was a very happy day.
Yes, we hope to see all of them, held to account for sure. The whole Aspen Education Group chain, CRC held. Quite a few of them are still open, but not as many as were a few years ago. So that's progress by my estimation.
For sure. Baby steps.
Exactly. These... I don't know. It's so funny to me because I think about how people. I'm a good person, and I don't expect people to be bad people. And I know from personal experience that sometimes you should not just assume they're good people either. Don't make any assumptions about other people. Let them reveal themselves to you for what they are. But what happens, I think, is so many people believe that other people are like them, whether they're evil people who think people are just evil, greedy scam artists, like every single person's out for themselves, and that's just the way the world is. And, you can screw over anyone you want because that's just the way the world is, according to people who think like that. But good people have the opposite perspective, which is, well, why would someone try to cheat me? Why would someone say they're going to help children and then hurt them? Why would someone say that they can help struggling families when all they're doing is defrauding them and harming their children? Why would anyone do anything like that? Because it's beyond the pale. It's beyond the imagination of so many people who are good, decent people at heart to think that somebody would actually go out and do something like that, or that it would be widespread. But I think if people realized how little this industry is regulated, and that private schools, and only 5 states require private schools, including boarding schools, be licensed in any way. They only 5, and even in those 5, faith-based schools and programs are exempt from licensing. So it's like, well, that's an easy place for scam artists to set up shop because there's no regulation. And so that's why we have this widespread fraud and abuse, is because there's no regulation. And I don't know, getting any regulation is really difficult. The Republican platform this year says that charter schools and private schools are too difficult to open and have too many regulations that are stopping them from providing needed services to communities in, underserved areas. That's what they're claiming in the Republican platform. And I was like, are you kidding me, you guys? You just lied in your platform. So, of course, the Republicans are out. Like, you can't lie in your platform and have me vote for you. And so, of course, I'm not happy with the Democrats either. I'm not happy with anyone this election cycle, but I won't vote for Hillary because there's just no way. She's been supporting these programs since the 1980s, since before she was First Lady in the 90s. She's been supporting them through the Back End Control Training Center and all this other stuff, and she's been involved in some really, shady stuff. As recently as May of 2016, she said that her plan for inner city and poor youth is to ship them off to behavioral boarding schools. That's her plan to address, inner city youth issues in schools. So I'm like, well, if that's your plan, you can just keep your plan. I'm not voting for you.
Well, I mean, if they don't think the way you do and they don't act the way you think they should, I mean, what else would you do besides send them to reprogramming? I mean, it's like the Nazis or the communists or anything else. If someone isn't, going into what you think, they have the reprogramming.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, and people don't realize it's happening, but our government has been doing it for years.
Right, and that's why I want a new government.
Mhm.
I want a new government.
Right.
I'd be like, you're talking about whether or not you're going to name a state gun, Utah. This is what you're talking about. This takes priority for you in the state of Utah, that you have to sit and vote on this, or whether or not to have a National Chocolate Day. I love chocolate as much as the next person, but I don't think we should be wasting congressional hours on discussing whether or not to have a celebration of chocolate. I really think that that's really a waste of our tax dollars and our time, and there are really pressing issues. I mean, if it was voting on whether or not we should celebrate chocolate and have a day where everyone gets free chocolate, then I would say, well, if you're talking about, a big freebie like everyone gets free chocolate, then I think maybe you should vote on that, because I don't think people should just be, necessarily getting free chocolate. I don't know what the deal is there, I'm like, well, is everybody going to get equal amounts of free chocolate? Somebody's going to think they didn't get a fair amount, I can tell you that much, and then it's going to be upset about that, but I don't know. I go on and on, but I just think some of the things that they discuss are so outrageous that I can't tolerate it. I'm like, there are life and death issues that affect people every single day that aren't being addressed, and it's just pathetic to talk about free chocolate or state guns or whatever. It's not even free chocolate. It was a National Chocolate Day. The fact that I think I saw somewhere where they were voting on whether or not there should be a National Chocolate Day, and then I saw that there was a National Chocolate Day and an International Chocolate Day that the UN or something had acknowledged. I'm like, really?
In perspective, it doesn't matter.
Right.
That crap.
And I'm like, I happen to know kids are being tortured right now in the United States. I'd really like something done about that. And, when I was at the program I was in, we had points too, and if you had enough points, you got to buy a treat. If you were not on investment, that was like the R&R in the program I was in. It was called investment. And so if you weren't on investment and you'd made your points, you could have one treat from the stupid little fake snack shack thing, and it was just junk food. It was like soda pop and chips and candy and snack cakes or whatever.
Classic, residential. Like, it seems like, I think, besides Aspen Ranch, every other one had that.
Right. So it's just part of their deal. And so that's the only time I would eat the whole time I was there, because I had, two of the girls tell me that they were putting stuff in the food and not to eat the food. And so I was really scared to eat the food, because I was like, oh, I'm only going to eat then when I have a packaged item I open myself and can inspect, because my family always did the, Halloween candy inspection for pricks and whatever else, needle pricks or needle marks or whatever might be in the food. Of course, the only people who've ever gotten in trouble, the only victims of Halloween candy tampering were victims of their parents having tampered with the candy. It wasn't stranger danger at all. The parents were actually the culprits, and that includes the one with the razor blade, I think, and a couple of poisonings, but it was parents who poisoned their own children, not strangers who had, done something horrible to the candy. Anyway.
Right.
You were making dinner. I won't keep you. I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to say everything you wanted to say. And I guess to spout off about this election, because I can't get it out of my head, and it's making me mad. Every single day I try to, get away from it. and I can't. Like,
No.
I don't know what to do. I'm like, I don't want to.
South Park episode where it was you had to choose between a turd sandwich and a giant douche.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. I'm so looking forward to South Park tonight. It's coming back. It's its first. I'm very curious if they'll be censored. I'm like, is this going to be the first time we'll see them censored? Because we've seen, PBS censored Jill Stein's comments about Hillary Clinton. They canceled the Dr. Drew show, which I could give a crap about because Dr. Drew is promoting abusive residential institutions on his show, so I'm kind of glad that he got canceled. But the one I was upset with was Larry Wilmore and the Nightly Show because it got canceled out of nowhere right after they said that they had an episode where Larry Wilmore, who's the host, said, so what, this election is a choice between two turds? Like one corrupt turd and one like crazy batshit turd, or batshit crazy turd. And then he said, I don't know, a third party. And that's what he said. And that was the last episode that they did. I mean, they had another week. They were given like a 1 week, but they weren't allowed to talk about anything their last week. And it was the most boring week of satire TV you'd ever see. But I was like, even Comedy Central silenced Larry Wilmore. But I'm hoping that because everyone expects South Park to be outrageous, that they'll be allowed to be as outrageous as they want, or that they just will allow themselves to be canceled. Because I think that would send a message too. Well, now they're canceling South Park, so whose show is it going to be next? Whose show is it going to be next? Who's on a network that is bankrolling Clinton's campaign or whomever's campaign?
Right.
So we'll see. But I'm gonna vote my conscience regardless. I'm not voting for Clinton, and I just can't. There's no way. There's like people have tried to convince me every way from Sunday, like, you don't want Trump to have the bomb, do you? And I'm like, guess what? Representative Ted Lieu in California, he has introduced legislation to amend the nuclear launch process. I don't even know if you know about this, but so that it requires, like, the Speaker of the House or, like, some other, major authority to okay it before it can happen. And I'm like, well, doesn't that make sense anyway? I could give a crap who's going to be president. I don't think any one person should, you can have a bad day. You could have a paranoid schizophrenic attack. You could have a psychotic break and decide to do that. I would like at least one other person to be there to say, whoa, Nelly.
Right.
I don't like anyone having their finger on the bomb.
Go ahead somewhere.
Exactly. So I don't know. That argument just doesn't fly for me. And I'm like, well, if you're that worried about it, I suggest, you pass Ted Lieu's legislation during the lame duck session because he has got a solution so that even in the event that Trump does win, he won't be able to just bomb anyone he feels like bombing.
Right.
But I still think he would be charged with treason. And I'm like, the first bomb you launch in a way that is not necessary for national defense, like immediate national defense, you're going to jail for treason, buddy. That's what I think, because I think that's one of the most treasonous acts you could commit. So I'm like, you're going to jail. Yeah. So I think that's a pretty good, deterrent. Like, if you do this, we will put you in jail for treason. And we may, execute you as well, because that may be the only way to, calm down international, anger out of what you did. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I'll thank you for the interview.
Right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
You too. Have a good night.